All right, well, it looks like we're right at 1 o'clock, and welcome everyone to our informational session on NASA internships. First, I'd like to make a few introductions before we get started. My name is May Manjuri, and I'm JSC's Pathways Program Manager. I'll be discussing the Pathways Intern Program. Joining me to discuss the Office of STEM Engagement, or the OSTEM internships, that we like to call them, will be Annalise Giuliani. She's on camera and is waving now. Rosie Patterson, she's helping to monitor our chat today and help to answer questions. And we have Jennifer Becerra, who's helping with the slides. We also have Pathways and OSTEM interns that are going to be a part of our intern panel. Sophia Williams, Frederick Galloway, and Waylon Lee are joining us from our Pathways intern program. And Alex Grace is joining us from the OSTEM program. And we could ask you to please mute your mic. I do hear some sound coming through. That would be really appreciated. We are making sure that we get through these charts in a timely manner, because we do want you to have a chance to be able to hear from our intern panel and then be able to ask some questions at the end of our session. All right. So again, I do hear some folks on the line. If you could all please look and make sure you're muted. All right, thank you all. So again, thanks for joining today's webinar to learn more about NASA's internships. And in this discussion, we're going to discuss the benefits of both of our programs, of the Pathways and in our OSTEM. Okay, next slide, please. All right. So here at NASA Johnson Space Center, JSC plays a pivotal I can't even talk today, pivotal role in enhancing scientific and technological knowledge to benefit all of humankind. Our mission is to lead human exploration. Our vision is dare, unite, explore. We dare to expand frontiers. We unite our partners to complete bold missions, and we explore space to benefit humanity. JSC is home to our astronaut corps and the International Space Station Mission Operations offices. We have other partnerships and centers that JSC collaborates with, and that's the Orion program, our commercial crew and cargo program, and the Gateway program. You can learn more about JSC at the site, the link that we have on our charts here, just nasa.gov/centers/Johnson. We do have here, next slide, please. Here at NASA, we have centers and field sites across the country. And as you can see, we have locations just about on all the coasts. It looks like here at Johnson Space Center, we also are at the White Sands Test Facility in New Mexico is also a part of our site. Each NASA center is unique based on its physical location and the work it performs. We've put the website here so that you can get more information about each site. It's super fun to see all the different missions that the different centers are involved in. Just one word about OSTEM. They do hire for all the NASA centers and field sites. Pathways program, it just depends on what they're needing to hire each session. And so it just depends on what announcements that we're able to post for each center. All right, thank you. Next chart, please. All right. Oh, I think there you go. So what is the Pathways Internship Program? Here, the JSC's Pathways Intern Program follows a cooperative education model where current undergrad and grad students gain valuable work experience in their degree field while they're alternating between semesters of work and school. And we have found that there is a huge benefit with having interns bring their knowledge that they're learning in the classroom into the workplace, and then taking what they're learning here at NASA, JSC, whatever center you work at, taking it back to your universities. The goal of our program is to develop students to become eligible for a full-time career with NASA once they graduate. Interns are able to work side by side with our NASA mentors that provide meaningful JSC projects and hands-on work experience. Some quick facts: our Pathways interns are civil servants, so you will be eligible for the same federal benefits as other federal employees. Opportunities are available for both our STEM and business majors, and we are looking for college sophomores through postgrads. And I do see, hi there. You might want to mute your mic and stop playing the video, and that way we can let our presenters move along. Annalise, I think you're up next. Matthew, I think we see you on camera, dear.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much, May, and everybody out there. It's very nice to meet you all. Again, just a friendly reminder, mute your mics. I know in this virtual world we can often forget, but we want to make sure we are clear and our message is spoken with you all today. So like May said, I'm Annalise Giuliani. I am one of the NASA internship coordinators with the Office of STEM Engagement Programs. I work and assist internships at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, and then also at the White Sands Test Facility out in New Mexico. So we're going to chat with you a little bit about today how to apply to both programs, how to learn on some tips and during that application process, and then really let you talk to the current interns that are with us today, because they are the best and the brightest, and they are here to answer your questions. So I'll dive in. You're probably wondering, what is the difference between the two internship programs, right? They probably sound very similar. They're both working at NASA, and they're both working on some really great missions and projects, both in the space and aeronautics realm. But the difference is that our Office of STEM Engagement, or OSTEM internships, work on more of a single session basis. So students come in for a spring, summer, or fall session, and they're able to work on project-based assignments. They are stipend paid, so that means they are getting a lump sum of money, if you're not familiar with what stipend means. And then the projects really directly relate back to what your major is. So if you're, for example, pursuing something in mechanical engineering or aerospace engineering, we as coordinators and from the program are going to work with a mentor to find a project that best fits your background and your interests. And then also kind of tagging on to that, NASA interns are integrated with each other. So our NASA OSTEM interns and Pathways interns are continually collaborating with one another. And like I mentioned before, they're also assigned to an authentic project and mentored to work alongside during that semester. So it's some really great, valuable experience that the students get to take with them as they move along in their career, whether it be with NASA or whether it be, you know, pursuing something else in their major. So Jen, we can go to the next slide. So again, you're probably wondering, what majors is NASA looking for? Well, let me tell you, the beauty of both programs is that we look for students with a wide background and variety of interests. I like to think of it too as NASA's a business. We need all of these folks with not only our STEM background, so science, technology, engineering, and math, but we also need those students in business and accounting. We need students working in communications and social media and journalism, graphic design, working, you know, as artists and things like that to push some publications out into the world. So you'll take a look here on the screen. Many of these majors, of course, we can't cover all the majors that are out there, but a lot of these majors are just some examples of what we've had students major in the past. You know, we have your classic engineering ones on the right-hand side. We have some, like I said, communications, business, education. If you're like myself, I went to school originally to be a teacher. So I have an education background, but here I am working in the Office of STEM Engagement. So contributing to a mission that's way bigger than myself, which is really cool. And then at the bottom, we have some skills that NASA's routinely looking for, right? So when you're filling out that application, whether it is for the Pathways program, the USA Jobs program, I encourage you to think of some of those skills and softwares and applicable things that you can put into your application to really make it stand out. So we have our programming languages down there. We have networking, machine shop, fabrication, 3D printing, if you're able to do that at this moment, social media, technical writing, all kinds of good things. So those are just a few examples that we have here, but I believe we'll go into a little bit more depth, and you can go to the next slide, Jen. So the NASA internship value, and this goes for all NASA internship programs, both Pathways and OSTEM. So number one being that you get to contribute to meaningful work that will have an impact not only on you and your own career, but also on the greater society, right? NASA is trying to benefit all mankind, whether it's those within our country and those, some of our commercial crew partners. And then you'll also be able to be part of a very diverse workforce in a multiple amount of ways. You know, I just touched on how we bring in students from all different backgrounds, all different kinds of universities from across the country, and with all different majors that they have an interest in and that they're pursuing. Our students also get to foster and inspire innovation and bring new ideas to NASA's table. My favorite part about interns is that they're bringing that fresh insight and perspective to a mentor who maybe didn't think about that idea beforehand. So I encourage you to kind of keep that in mind as you're moving forward with your application. And then as a NASA intern, you are always receiving learning opportunities, whether that be with the project that you're assigned for, whether that be with maybe a student committee that you'll hear about a little later that you can get involved in. There's always an opportunity to learn and grow your own professional network along the way. And then at the bottom, NASA has been voted the best place to work in the federal government 9 years in a row. So also keep that in mind as you're moving forward. And Jen, we can go into the next slide, and I believe May will be taking it from here.
Yes, thank you, Annalise. Really excited to, you know, that we are part of NASA, that we have been voted the best place to work in all of the government for 9 years in a row. So that's a really important point to make. Thank you for your information. And like Annalise was just saying, there are some similarities and some differences between the two programs, and this chart really kind of helps to explain what those differences and similarities are. You must, the similarities are there in where the two circles are connecting or overlapping. You must be a U.S. citizen and at least 16 years of age. Our OSTEM, they have a requirement that you have at least a 3.0 GPA and a 4.0 scale, and that you're enrolled in a degree granting program at an accredited college or university. Pathways, we require at least a 2.9 GPA on a 4.0 scale. We also require that you're enrolled or at least accepted to an accredited college or university on at least a half-time basis. And that you have at least 30 semester hours of undergrad education that you've completed with a GPA, again, at the 2.9 GPA level. Most of the NASA centers require you work, well, every one of the Pathways program across the centers require that you work at least 640 hours. Here at JSC, we require a bit more. We require that you work 3 rotations here at Johnson Space Center, and that you're at least a year out from graduating. And again, all of our, we'll be providing you with a more information about what our center specific work tour requirements are. So those are the similarities and differences. Jen, can you please go to the next chart? Okay, so applying for Pathways positions, and we thought this would be helpful to kind of help navigate applying for our announcements, because it is a little bit, well, it is very competitive and it's very thorough. You will need to go to usajobs.gov to create an account. And to your left, there's a screenshot of what USA Jobs looks like. If you look at under Shape America's Future, it says Create Profile. That's where you'll want to start. You'll want to follow, set up your account, follow all of the instructions, make sure you fill in all the fields, create an alert so that you will receive email notifications when an opportunity matches your criteria. Pathways announcements are under announcements that are titled Student Trainee. So be sure that when you're in the search bar up under announcement or job type, that you just type in student trainee, and you'll see all of NASA's opportunities when they come open. We do have, openings 2 times a year, in the fall and in the spring. As you can see, we do have our Pathways Fall 2021 announcements that will open on September 13th and close 5 days later on the 17th. So you'll want to make sure that you are going to USA Jobs now, as soon as possible, setting up your profile, getting familiar with USA Jobs, and most importantly, creating your resume. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. You can, once you do find the opportunities, you'll want to follow every instruction on the how to apply section of each announcement. You'll notice that announcements will list multiple NASA centers and locations, just like the map we showed you. And each announcement is going to be structured around a set of specific academic majors. So you're going to make sure that you apply to the announcement that aligns with both your academic major and your preferred NASA center. And the reason we strongly recommend that you're paying attention to those academic majors, for instance, if you're an electrical engineer, you want to make sure that if that's your degree, you want to make sure you're applying to electrical engineering announcements. Folks will get disqualified if they're studying aerospace engineering and they're applying from, a biomedical degree, an announcement that requires, some other different type of degree. So just be careful. And also, you will be able to select, I believe, up to 3 locations that you'd like to work at. So take a look at the map and make sure that the 3 that you are applying to are the ones that you are the most interested in working at. And also making sure that if there are any specific NASA requirements for the different centers, that you're able to meet them, because as you see under our Pathways Fall 2021 announcements box, we only hire for the spring session right now, which you will need to be able to start on January 18th of 2022. Some centers are hiring for the summer session, this upcoming fall session as well, and you will be required to start on 6/6, 2022. You will not be allowed to pick the date. You will, it will be very clearly outlined that the start date, what the start date is for each of the announcements. And there is a link here to help you to learn more about what our specific pathways requirements are. Just pathways.jsc.nasa.gov/. All right, thank you. Next chart, please. All right, thought it'd be great to help you with resume tips. In USA Jobs, there is a way that you can just upload your resume, but we don't recommend that. And if you do upload a resume, make sure that it is as thorough and detailed as possible. Many times interns are told, hey, just turn in a 1-page short resume with bullets. I used that approach many times in USA Jobs and I didn't get selected. When I realized that that was not working for me, and I started using the narrative approach in my resume, and really discussing everything I do in great detail, that's when I started getting more attention to my resume. So use the resume builder. You can see the plus sign here. Just build your resume. Follow all of the instructions. It's pretty straightforward. There's fields that you'll fill in. There's a totally open area where you're able to, create different the different positions you filled. You can go in and make sure that you're just, adding as many details as possible. We're suggesting that you use the SAR method, describe the situation, what the action was, and what was the result. Use action words to describe your work experience, such as managed, assistant, responded, planned, tested, developed, etc. Document all related jobs and use school projects if you lack job experience. I've been in job interviews with our interns, and they gave some of the most exciting examples of what they are doing, what they're doing at school. And our managers love to know what you're doing back at school in the degree fields that you're in, because they haven't been in school in a while, and we're just really curious as to what's going on. So tell us, pretend like you're in a job interview and you're trying to explain to a manager what it is you're doing. That's what a manager is looking at when they're going to look at your resume. So be sure that you're just adding as much detail as possible. I cannot stress that enough. Make sure you're including your skills, your tools, any software, all the knowledge you've gained. Include basic things. If you're just going to upload a one-pager, make sure you're adding your name, phone number, email address, GPA, and all the other information we've listed. And please, please make it as detailed as possible if you do decide to upload your resume. We do have some tutorials here, and the links are here: how to apply for federal jobs, resume writing, and a USA Jobs YouTube channel. Again, we're almost 3 weeks away from when our announcements open, so we can't stress enough that you get started as soon as possible. There is a great slide deck here called Explore a Career at NASA, and there's a link on the charts. Slides 24 through 30 are really great examples of how to write your resume. Slides 15 through 23 give you great application tips and actually shows step-by-step how to develop your, how to fill out your application on USA Jobs. All right. Okay, great. Thank you. Next slide, please. So our last hiring session was back in spring, and we started to utilize a pathways assessment that was developed by the Office of Personnel Management. And this is now a requirement that you take the questionnaire in addition to answering other eligibility questions. After you submit your application on USA Jobs, you may be asked, and it's usually through an email, to complete the online assessment. The assessment's designed to help us understand your competencies beyond what's in your resume. The responses that you provide on the online assessment are used to evaluate competencies such as accountability, attention to detail, customer service, decision-making, flexibility, integrity, honesty, interpersonal skills, learning, reading, self-management, like achievement, stress tolerance, and teamwork. These are all qualities that we're looking for in future leaders here at JSC, and also for our interns that we are having to come on and work here at NASA. Before you begin taking the assessment, here are some pointers. It can feel a little daunting at first. The assessment is divided into sections, and each question is timed. So there are some sample questions that you can look at and get a look and feel of what it's going to be like. We have the website here, or the link here. We suggest you set aside 3 hours to take the assessments. Some applicants complete it in less time, but better safe than sorry. So please don't be preoccupied with trying to do something else while you're taking the test, because it is timed. And make sure you're answering each question to the best of your ability, because these assessment results are kept on record for 1 year, and they will be used for future positions that require the same assessment. So if you've taken it one time during this past spring session, you won't be needing to take it again, and I don't believe you'll have a chance to take it again. So that's why it's so very important. Set aside the time. go and look at the sample questions, take a few of the questions, make sure you set up plenty of time to take the test or the assessment. Okay, next chart, please. I believe this is just a list of all of the benefits that we offer to our interns in the Pathways program. Again, it's the same as federal employees. You get health and life insurance. You get a federal employee retirement system, a thrift savings plan. You get paid holidays, and you earn annual sick leave, military leave counts toward that time. And you are eligible, of course, for conversion to a permanent position or term of position after you complete program requirements. And you're eligible to get promotions as you go along. Okay. All right, thank you. Next slide, please. And I believe that's back to you, Annalise.
All right, thank you. I think we may be missing a few pictures on this slide. So I'm not sure what happened to them where that circle is supposed to be, but so that's wonderful. You just heard about how to apply for a NASA Pathways position at not just JSC and White Sands Test Facility, you're also going to apply that very similar skill sets, very similar methods when you're applying to pathways across the agency. So now we're going to move on how to apply for an Office of STEM Engagement or OSTEM position. So I apologize that our picture is not here on the screen, but at first you want to go ahead and head to intern.nasa.gov. And if there's anything you get out of this entire presentation, I like to tell students, there's one thing I want you to remember, and it will cover both programs at this point in time, is that you can go ahead to intern.nasa.gov and you'll learn about OSTEM internships, Pathways internships, and a couple of the other programs and education programs that we offer right now. But with that, I do want to note that our Office of STEM Engagement application platform is migrating to a new system that we are calling Gateway. Students can begin applying for our upcoming spring 2022 internships on October 1st, 2021. So right now, you're going to go ahead to intern.nasa.gov, maybe just familiarize yourself with the application and what some of the fields that are required there are asking you to submit. I encourage you to go on now and just kind of take a look, maybe start jotting down some helpful things that you want to have in your resume and in your application on October 1st, so that way you're ready to go and not behind the eight ball. I always encourage students, and May also talked about this too, is to apply as early as possible. Get your application ready to go, maybe jot it down in a Word document and then just copy and paste as you go. Check for grammar and all those good things too. But I encourage students to follow that narrative format. Talk to me about how you're applying the skills that you're learning in school, or how are you applying your interests. So with that, I tell students a lot of the time that I see on applications, students will talk about their interests and how they are really great at in programming software such as Python. So I encourage you to think about that. How did you learn Python? Maybe talk about that in your application. Were you self-taught? How do you apply Python in your daily activities at school? Do you use it with a committee or a club at school? I encourage you to think of those things as you're moving through the application and really form that narrative format. So myself or May or somebody else on the hiring committee will learn a little bit more about you and your background. So down here in the right-hand corner, we have our spring, summer, and fall sessions that are offered through our Office of STEM Engagement internships. Now this works a little bit differently, like I said, than the Pathways program at JSC, where we are hiring students 3 times a year with 3 cohorts. So you'll see here our spring and fall sessions are a tad bit longer than our summer session. Spring and fall are 16 weeks long. And again, I know in the chat we had a couple questions on full-time versus part-time. Most of our positions at Johnson Space Center and White Sands Test Facility are full-time positions. However, part-time options are offered based off of a mentor request or another situation along those lines. But keep in mind that full-time positions are favored. Oh, I think John has his mic open. You can go ahead and mute.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay, it happens. And then also we have our summer internships. Now, keep in mind that it is the summertime. Summer is a very busy season for everybody, and a lot of students have off during that time period. But our summer session is a bit shorter, so it is 10 weeks. I don't believe it's reflected here on the screen, but it's 10 weeks long, and it usually runs from beginning of June to the beginning of August. So you'll see here, we also have our upcoming application deadlines, and I encourage you to either whip your phone out, take a quick picture, a screenshot, keep those application deadlines in mind or in your calendar. That way you know they're coming up and can get your application ready to go. So Jen, we'll go to the next slide, and we'll talk a little bit more about how to make your OSTEM application stand out. So first, you really want to go ahead in and apply to any session that you're available. So maybe you're only available for the summertime. Maybe you're really focused on that fall and spring sessions and keeping your activities lined up for school. That's great. But I encourage you to keep that up to date in your application as you move along throughout the calendar year. You can apply for OSTEM internships for up to 15 opportunities per session and per season per se. So for the springtime, you can apply to up to 15. Summertime, you can apply to up to 15. It does space it out that way.
I couldn't even hear
When
anything.
you're going through your application, you can go ahead, and I would highly suggest that you go and spell out any acronyms that you use. They can be acronyms from maybe somewhere at your college or university. They can be from another NASA program that maybe you participated in, as we have here on the screen. Spelling those acronyms out is extremely important, not just in a NASA application, but in any application in general. You also want to go ahead, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, is explain in detail your research interests and your technical skills. So not only do we want to hear about where your skill sets lie and what your skill sets are that maybe you use in your college classes or in your free time, we also want to know where your interests. Do you have an interest in something in the medical field? Do you have an interest maybe in social media and that you're actively pursuing that interest by joining a club or by working a part-time job or something along those lines? We want to know about that. We want to know about those interests because, again, it paints that whole picture of who you are as an applicant. And then when you're going through your application, we like to suggest to students is to think filters, think keywords. What are those buzzwords that are in my application? And some examples, again, I talked about them a little bit earlier, but they can include a programming language. They can include anything that some people call them soft skills. I don't think they're soft, but I think they're sometimes even more important than some of our other skills. And what I mean by that is your communication skills, your teamwork and collaboration skills, your leadership skills, some of those hidden and subtle skills that come into play and can really make or break a situation. So like I said, think about some of those buzzwords and filters when it comes to your background, your interests, and your major. So Jen, we can go to the next slide. All right. So we had a couple questions about this in the chat. Can international students apply? And again, we'll go through some of our frequently asked OSTEM questions, which might help answer some of your pathways questions as well. At this time, we are operating virtually. By that, I mean we are operating where interns are working remotely from the comfort of their own home or their university, wherever they may be, but they're still participating in a NASA internship. But right now, at this time, we are not accepting students into our international students program just due to the virtual environment. I do foresee that probably changing once we head back to in-person, whether that be moving into next spring or sometime next year. So the link here on the screen, and I know Hiba was so nice enough to put it in the chat for us, walks you through that application and that process if you fall into the international students program. So Jen, I think you can click again. Yep, these will pop up. So for this is in the case if we were on site and in person. Like I said, right now our Office of STEM Engagement internships are operating virtually. But if we were traditionally on site working at the NASA centers, For OSTEM interns, unfortunately, they are responsible for providing their own housing arrangements and covering any relocation expenses. We do offer, like I mentioned before, a stipend amount of money for the internship. So a lot of students end up using a portion of that to help fund their relocation. What we do offer, though, for this is a helpful guide that many students have used in the past when they've relocated to the Houston area to find housing, affordable housing in the area, or somewhere that they can kind of stay for the 16 or 10-week period. So we can go to the next one, Jen. And then our internships paid. So for OSTEM internships, I touched on this before. Students do receive a stipend award. And then you can click one more, Jen. You'll see here we have the fall and spring internships, which are 16 weeks. We have our undergraduate and graduate student amounts, and very similar for the summer internships. You will see a difference in the amounts based off of academic level. So our graduate students will receive a bit higher of a stipend than our undergraduates. And then also, the stipends do depend on the session. So if the session is a bit longer, like 16 weeks, as opposed to 10, those stipends are going to be a bit larger as well. And I think we forgot to mention this also, is that we also hire high school students for the Office of STEM Engagement Internship. As long as you fall into that 16 years of age eligibility requirement and you have at least that 3.0 GPA on that 4.0 scale, you are also eligible for an Office of STEM Engagement internship. And the stipends for high school students do differ just based on locality and other things as well. So Jen, we can go to the next slide. So I think we have our two last questions, frequently asked questions for our OSTEM internship program. Once you go ahead and apply, and this will be in terms of our intern.nasa.gov system, how will I know if my application was received? Well, after you click apply and fill out all of your fields, whether it be your address, your phone number, once you start actually filling out the lump of the application, talking about your employment history, your academic history, what are some of your interests, things like that, you'll receive green check marks that will hint to the submission status. So once you see that message that says thank you for your submission, please do not call the center to confirm that they've received your application. We strongly, strongly encourage that and just trust within the application that it has been received. But with that, you should look for those green check marks, because if you have all of them for each field, you are good to go. Your application has been submitted. And then also, kind of just going off of that, as you go into intern.nasa.gov, you can view your offers in, like we have here on the screen, the View My Offers tab. And there will be any offers in there that are pending from any NASA center across the country. So Jen, I think we will go into the next slide, and I will be handing it off to May.
Thank you, Annalise. I know we're getting tight on time here, so I'll quickly just go over what PAXI is about. It's a promoting agency cross-center connections. It's a student-led organization that connects students from all NASA centers to encourage communication, knowledge sharing, and ultimately promote a more unified NASA organization as a whole. And I won't talk too much about it because our Pathways and OSTEM interns are ready to start chatting about this as well. So next chart, please, Jennifer. Here are ways you can also connect with us through social media. On the left is OSTEM and their handles, and on the right are the Pathways. We also have our NASA internships and Pathways internship links that you can follow for more information about each of the programs and all of the information we've covered today. Okay, thank you. Next chart, Jennifer. Hand it back over to Annalise.
Thanks, May. And then we have here on the screen our coordinators and managers for both the JSC Pathways and Office of STEM Engagement interns, as well as our shared inboxes at the bottom. So if you have any questions regarding eligibility requirements, regarding application help and things like that, I encourage you to jot down these email addresses at the bottom of the screen, and you can go ahead and reach out with your questions there, and they will be answered as they come in. So with that, I think, Jen, we will go to the next slide, which should be questions, but I think since we're tight on time, and May, you can weigh in on this, we're gonna head to our student intern panel. So Jen can click again, and we will hand it over to Sophia.
Hi everyone, so my name is Sophia and I am a current Pathways intern and I'm here on site at NASA Johnson Space Center, and I'm here to talk about some of my previous NASA experiences. And I started last spring and I was in the Human Health and Performance Division, and specifically I worked in the Space Food Systems Laboratory. So the food lab, if you guys have heard that before. And the project that I did was I did a lot of programming and I pretty much looked at astronaut inputs, and I adjusted the food menu aboard the International Space Station to kind of increase the food that the astronauts liked and then decrease food that they didn't like. And while I was doing my virtual tour, I also was a part of several committees that you'll hear about later. And I was the intern social media lead. So I had the opportunity to run several of our intern social media accounts that May had on the screen previously. And currently, I am working in the spacesuits and crew survival systems, and I am working on the XEMU. So if you ever have seen astronauts performing spacewalks, I'm working on the new sort of spacewalking suit that they're going to take hopefully to the moon and to Mars. And I'm currently doing mobility testing. So actually after this meeting is over, I have to run to the lab and go work on some mobility testing for the suit. I am also a fourth year at the University of Texas at Austin, and my major is biomedical engineering. And some of the hobbies that I like to do outside of my NASA internship, I really enjoy yoga, painting, hiking, paddleboarding, playing ukulele, just some fun things I like to do. And I have a little bit of motivation for you guys or advice about this whole process because it can be kind of intimidating. And one quote that we heard from the leader who selects the astronaut candidates and pretty much decides who gets to be an astronaut came and talked to us, to all the interns, and she said, you know, there's a 0% chance of becoming an astronaut, a 0.1% chance of becoming an astronaut if you apply. However, there's a 0% chance if you don't apply. And so you may hear like NASA internships are really competitive, but you have a 0% chance if you don't apply to get in. So you might as well apply and increase your chances of getting in. And my second piece of advice is if at first you don't succeed, try again. And this is really important because some interns that are here have applied multiple times to get in, and it took them maybe their second or third time to get in. There's some people who it took them 9 times to get in. So, and there's some people who applied their first time and got in. So if you don't get in, don't let that discourage you. I initially was rejected from biomedical engineering when I applied at my university, and I decided to try again, and I was able to get into biomedical engineering, and now I'm an engineer here at NASA. So I have no idea what would have happened if I didn't try again after I was rejected, and so that is my advice to you all. And next slide, sorry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Frederick Galloway, and I am a Pathways intern. I work in procurement in BH3. So some of my past experiences, I'm trying to save time, so I'm just going to hit the highlights. I go to Tarleton State University, and I study industrial management. Some of my experiences in the past, I was in the Army as a tank mechanic for 5 years. I also coached football for 4 years. So some of my hobbies are boxing, cars, and road tripping. And my biggest piece of advice that I can give to you guys is find your own lane and then drive it. Not everybody's experience is going to be the same. My experience getting to NASA was different than, you know, some of the other panelists here. but you got to find that thing that you love, and you got to do it to the best of your ability. If you don't get in the first time, that's okay. Try again. I didn't get in until my second time. So if you give up, that's on you. But I would just say, make sure that you tailor your resume to speak out to all the experiences that you've had in the past, and just go for it. It's worth it. I love working at NASA. It's a beautiful thing. So I didn't want to hold up and talk about my whole slide. So that's pretty much it for me. Next slide.
It looks like we are having a bit of a technical issue over here with our charts. But Alex, if you just want to pop on, I believe your chart didn't pop up. If you just don't mind speaking some wisdom to our friends out there, maybe just telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll keep on going through.
I can do that. So there's no slide, but I think I remember what was on it, so I can talk about it. My name is Alex. I am an OSTEM intern in the Office of STEM Engagement. So I get to work a lot with Rosie and Annalise and Hippa and Jennifer. So I am a senior at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. I was an intern in OSTEM this past summer, and I'm continuing part-time virtually in the fall. I was also virtual this past summer. I am a chemistry and educational studies major, so I work in some STEM education, a little bit outside of the engineering sphere of things. My project this summer was working on a communications toolkit to sort of give an overall view of all the educational activities that Johnson offers to students and teachers across the country. I've really enjoyed working at NASA. It's been fantastic. My biggest piece of advice is that even if you do not necessarily fit into what you think someone who works at NASA is, there's a role for you at NASA. I am someone who works in education. I did not know that NASA would have a spot for me, but there is a place for everyone, regardless of your skill sets or your interests at NASA. Definitely try again if you do not get it the first time, and do not be afraid to apply for roles or take on opportunities. They're outside of your comfort zone, as those will really help you. That is my biggest piece of advice.
How's it going? I'm Waylon, and currently I work in Orion GNC Graduate Pathways terms. So I work in mission control, so I go in there and help support and write tools for the Orion GNC flight controllers, as well as tools for the flight directors to look at and use on during Artemis 1 for any missions. My education, I graduated from Texas A&M with my bachelor's in aerospace engineering with minors, the double minor in astrophysics and math. And currently I'm a MS and PhD aerospace engineering student at Texas A&M. I'll skip the advice for now and jump into the hobbies, but some of the hobbies I have, I enjoy collegiate a cappella. I'm actually a current president of an a cappella group and a beatboxer for them. I also fly, so I'm a pilot, working on my private pilot's license, as well as my instrument rating on that. And I also write music on the side and sing. So some of the previous NASA experience that I had, this current semester, I'm also working for Marshall Space Flight Center in conjunction with Johnson Space Center on an explosion analysis project for fuel tanks. And then I'm also working, I also worked with EG4, which is basically the Aeroscience Division on the CST-100 paddleboard analysis for the Boeing side. Previously, I also worked with the FIDOs, which are the Flight Dynamics Officers. And I did some tool development over there for the flight controllers. And then I also worked in ER7 and helped train the newest crew of astronauts on SAFER, and worked and created wrote code for a simulation for them to fly around in virtual reality and get themselves back to the International Space Station if they become untethered. Some of the advice that I really want to speak for, just like how I went through and got into graduate pathways and pathways, is get involved with research in the lab. I find that research experience is really important because you really get into like a project or a long-term project that you'll be working on alongside graduate students, alongside professors, and that really gets your feet wet in terms of working on a project and not just working on school assignments and exams. Also, another piece of advice I would like to give is just to lead extracurriculars outside of your major. Do the things that you love. And that was definitely, Frederick also talked about this, but so do the things you're passionate about and continually apply those passions in different ways and learn different things from those passions. And that really helps with getting into, at least for me, that helped me a lot with getting into NASA as a Pathways intern. On top of that, I always say for all the people that I talk to is spend time building relationships with your friends and family and make sure to work hard, play hard, and be, I don't know why I say unapologetically you. And never stop failing if you fail. Never stop trying and trying and trying over and over again. Again, I heard, just from some of the interns on the panel that they took multiple tries, some people even 9 tries to get in. So that's kind of my biggest piece of advice, is to keep trying. Thank you. I'll go ahead and take this. May went ahead and talked a little bit about PAXI as an interim committee, but outside of it, we have 2 big committees inside of NASA for interns. And that is PIPE, which is the Pathways Interns for Professional Enhancement, and SCUM, which is Social Committee Meeting. So PIPES, we do a lot of professional development. We did some tours and lectures, some astronauts, flight directors, safety staff, safety personnel, and just a lot of people who have been at NASA for a long time. We've also done, we also did a lot of cross-center connections in Pathways PAXI. I remember a couple summers ago, pre-COVID, the interns from JSC all went to Florida, and basically all the interns from all the other NASA facilities came together and had just like this awesome tournament against basically center versus center and all these games. And that's always really fun. Also, you get to really network across that. So if you're working at JSC and you really wanted to do something over at KSC, you have connections through PAXI to talk to people over there and network and ask for their advice on how to apply for their internships and such like that. We also have housing. So when you're down here, we have there's like Hope for Housing. We have a video committee, which we release a video every year or every semester, NASA video. We have the apparel. We have NASA on Campus, which is just kind of like an outreach, which is getting kids excited about NASA, talking to different schools, providing outreach for that. We have social media, which runs the intern Instagram and Twitter, as well as professional development. So you can really kind of grind out your resume and other skills that you want to gain experience in. Next slide. And finally, we have SCUM. So SCUM, we have basically all these social events that happen throughout each semester. So typically we have a beach retreat, which is just like a couple days where the interns hang out all together and we rent out a place and have fun there. We have fancy dinner, which is just a big fancy dinner. We have a lot of outreach. So we worked with Houston Food Bank and just different outreach to schools. We have rocketry. A lot of the interns got their L1 certification, as well as when I was in rocketry a couple of years ago, we designed, built, budgeted, and flew a model rocket from scratch, and so that's really fun. We also do a lot of sports and just like a lot of sports teams, intramurals kind of thing that are similar to your colleges. We do some weekend trips. We also have a yearbook, and we also make committees. So you can make a new committee in SCUM if you want to do a cappella or music or something like that, a music committee. Those things can be expanded on, and you can create that for your interests. I think that's all right there. Do you have any questions?
All right. Thank you so much, Waylon. Again, some really, really helpful advice from all of our interns. And our apologies again on the technical difficulties. It just seems to happen in this virtual world that we're all finding ourselves in. But I will defer to Rosie at this point. Were there any lingering or outstanding questions that we didn't get to in the chat that you needed us to address now? And if not, we can always wrap it up because I know we are getting close on time.
I think between Hip and myself, we were able to answer quite a few of the questions. However, you guys, you do have our email address that was issued earlier in the presentation. We can also put that in the chat if you have more questions. And definitely we have the participant list and we can send out a recording to all of you as well as the slides, because I know some of you are coming in from class or other appointments. So we'll be sure to send those slides out to you. But if we have, a few more minutes, if anybody would like to open up their mic and ask a question, we do have a couple more minutes available.
I have hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, I have a question. So if you apply to the Pathways this upcoming session and then for whatever reason are not selected, are you still able to apply for another? I'm currently a NASA intern now for my second semester. I was here in the summer and got an offer for the fall, but if you're not selected for the Pathways for whatever reason, can you still apply for the spring session and then just wait again until the next Pathways application opens up?
Certainly, and I'm assuming you're referring to the spring OSTEM internships. Is that correct, Christina?
Correct.
Yes, you are more than welcome to apply whenever your schedule really sees fit. If you're available in the spring and maybe don't get that Pathways application, we encourage you to obviously keep applying to Pathways, but you are more than welcome to go ahead and apply to any OSTEM opportunities that might work out best for you. But May, I'll let you add anything to that if you had anything insight.
No, that's what happened. A lot of folks you've heard from our other interns that they just kept applying, and then our folks also alternate between OSTEM and Pathways as well. And I forgot to mention that one of the OSTEM internships applies toward one of the 3 required tours for our undergrad interns, and one for our Pathways grad interns, they can include one of the OSTEM for one of their required 2 tours. So it's definitely a great opportunity to be able to be involved in either internship here at NASA.
I have a question. Hi. Do I have to take the internship class to take this internship at the NASA?
Do you mean an internship class in regard to your university in credit?
Wichita State University.
I'm not sure. May, do you know if that applies to Pathways?
Well, we've found that some schools do require that you are enrolled in an intern type of course as a placeholder so that you're still enrolled in the university. But some schools don't require it. But that's something you'll work out with your academic major. When as you're selected, we have a tour schedule form that we ask you to take to your advisor, and you work on it together to fill out to make sure that when you're working, that your school knows you're here, and then when you're going back to school, we know, and that it all lines up so that you can meet your requirements here, but also the requirements to get your degree as well.
All right, I have one more question. Where do you guys have the internship program? In what state?
So on the charts that we'll be sending out, on chart number 3, I believe it was, has all the NASA centers listed on the United States map. And there's also a link that you can check out and go and find out what each center does. And, of course, that might help you to kind of understand like where you would like to apply. Some interns live in California and they come out to JSC, every session. So we have interns from all over the country here at Johnson Space Center. But of course, there's 10 different centers that you'll be able to apply to for OSTEM, and then it just depends on what centers are looking for folks in different degree fields at the other centers for pathways. Hope that helped.
Well, yeah, that I really like the idea. I don't know if you guys have one in Wichita, in Kansas.
We don't have a NASA center in Wichita. Probably Johnson Space Center would be one of your closest ones. I know we have a lot of interns that live in areas like that, in states close to you. But again, you'll want to go and look at each center and make sure that it aligns to what your degree is, what your interests are. Yeah, so just make sure you check out that map and click the links and learn more about the centers so you can make a decision that's best for you.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we are at 2 o'clock. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. So we're just mindful of everyone's time today. But I just want to thank everybody for coming out today. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties, but we made it through. And hopefully you were able to jot down those email addresses that we had on the screen and also throw in the chat for both Pathways and OSTEM. That way you can shoot your questions there, and somebody will get back to you to answer them. So thank you again. And May, do you have anything else to add before we close out today? Awesome. Well, wonderful. All right, everyone, have a lovely rest of your day, and thanks for joining us. Have a good one.